right, hello. My name is Aaron. Today I was going to do a little analyzation of a song that I'm a big fan of, and an artist that I'm a big fan of, a song of hers called "Rejoice" by Julien Baker, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about how the song makes me feel, some of the meaning I think the song has for me. I know people kind of interpret songs in their own ways, and I'm of the belief that you're free to do that to a certain extent. But I would just like to offer my analyzation of the song and how it made me feel. So, because I had done a guitar tutorial of the song a while back, but I didn't have a fully formulated idea of what I thought the song meant to me, or meant kind of in the aggregate. So, yeah, I figured I would talk about it a little bit. So, the song is "Rejoice" by Julien Baker. It's a great song just as a song with really nice full chords and a really nice kind of driving but very serious feeling riff. But I think it also contains kind of a piece of modern wisdom that represents a peculiar and growing attitude towards kind of life and meaning that exists within specifically people of my generation and a bit younger and a bit older. Sort of more youthful generations, although some of the individuals within these generations are getting to be 40 to 50 years old. So I'm gonna break it down by kind of verse and the chorus, and then do kind of a more macro analyzation at the end. So the first verse kind of explores the life of an addict, and really of kind of a bereft individual, kind of a meaningless individual, not necessarily meaningless, but a person who doesn't experience meaning within their life and is self-medicating, through drugs and things like that. So I think, which is a common occurrence of people who are feeling this bereft feeling and kind of unmoored existence. So all of my friends live in plastic bags. It's kind of a interesting, look into the lifestyle of a drug addict. It's kind of also an interesting. If you can live in a plastic bag, you probably don't have a lot of meaning in your life. I think the plastic bag kind of signifies the size of the receptacle that you would need to carry the things that matter to you in your life, and that's a very kind of material look at the actual metaphor, because obviously material things are not necessarily the things that are going to instill meaning in your life, but as a metaphor, I think that's what she was going for there, that the amount of things that mean a lot to you and that that kind of keep you alive can exist in a plastic bag. And so, that's not ideal. The whole verse kind of outlines the modes of being that are experienced by these untethered individuals. The subject in question eventually overdoses in the first birth. On their birthday, one of the verses is, "On my birthday, call the blue lights," which is essentially kind of a way of saying they overdosed, and their family or their friends, whoever, called the ambulance, and then they actually eventually end up cursing the people who had the audacity to care and resuscitate them, or have them resuscitated. Whether it be they basically are mad at anyone who enabled them to still be alive. And I think this leads into the second verse and / chorus, and also speaks to that deep feeling of worthlessness that doesn't only exist in addicts, but also within kind of a depressive and unmoored individual who doesn't experience a lot of meaning. I think, you don't necessarily have to be depressed if you're unmoored, but I think the two go hand in hand pretty well. You don't have to be depressed if you don't experience meaning, but be an interesting individual if you aren't, I'll say. So yeah, an individual who's not attached to anything, who is attached to so meaningless things such as drugs and kind of the day-to-day kind of superfluous and superficial lifestyle that goes along with being a drug addict. So yeah, that would kind of compel him or her to have these feelings of extreme worthlessness and be mad, or not necessarily fully appreciate someone saving their life. The anger at being resuscitated kind of speaks to a profound dissatisfaction with the life that they live, and essentially what is suicidal ideation. Although it might not have manifested itself in that way, it certainly has that ring of I don't need to exist to it. I don't see any point in existing. So the fact that you have continued my existence is not necessarily something I'm going to thank you for, which is a really sad way to feel in a increasingly more proliferated way that people are feeling in my generation and kind of as a whole, which is unfortunate. So as you progress into the chorus, the person is then kind of moving their existential angst from the people around them to kind of what in the song is God, but in a increasingly godless world, I think it's kind of cursing more the entirety of existence, not necessarily just the people that exist within their lives, but what could be personified or symbolized as God. So and kind of all of that while continuing to do what's the cause of their suffering. So one of the lines is, "I wish I could quit, but I can't stand the shakes. Choking no smoke or singing your praise. I think there's a God, and he hears either way when I rejoice and complain." And this juxtaposition, I think, is meant to highlight kind of the level of personal sovereignty that we all have over our own circumstances, and it's kind of your job to create your own meaning in your life, and you can kind of curse God all you want, and but it's not necessarily the job of some almighty being, or even to be more I guess less religious about it. It's not the job of existence itself to instill meaning and to make your life worth living. And I think that's kind of a hard thing to deal with, because it essentially means that life is suffering, and it's your job to not suffer. It's kind of that would be an extension of the age-old adage, life is not fair, which is a hard thing to which not necessarily hard thing, but it's I think something people grapple with. People are always saying, well, that's not fair, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to make life fair and be a fair person and call out unfairness where it exists. But if you allow the unfairness of life to affect you to the point where you don't want to be alive, then it's not productive. So I think she's essentially saying, understand that life isn't fair, and it's kind of your job to make sure that it is as fair as it can be for you. But unfortunately, it will never be totally fair, and that's just kind of the reality of the situation. And so we reach the kind of last verse chorus intermingling. They're kind of very beautifully intermingled, and the line between verse and chorus are not necessarily so stark. And I really enjoy songs like that. That I don't want to say butt convention. I don't want to sound too punk about the whole thing, but it feels like a linear song, and I enjoy linear music. Cyclical music has its place, and I enjoy plenty of cyclical songs that do the classic, like verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, or some variation of that. It's kind of the classic formula that people use to write catchy and good songs, which is not a problem. I mean, it's been proven to kind of work. But yeah, I appreciate the linearness of this song. So finally, at the end of the song, the subject is kind of at their lowest point, kind of openly questioning God and his decisions. And this is, I think, where one of the most powerful lines that kind of drives home the feelings of this person and the meaning of the song. And essentially, she's talking about hearing voices with the ghosts of my friends when I pray, asking why did you let them leave and then make me stay when you know my name and all of my hideous mistakes. So that's a sad, profound, and very deep line. A collection of lines, And the question itself kind of answers a whole bunch of questions about the the view that this person has of themselves. Why did you let them leave and then make me stay? Denoting that it was kind of a mercy to end their friends' lives, and also denoting that this person is feeling a tremendous amount of guilt, not only for his or her own choices, but the effect that kind of the parallel choices that them and their friends made had on both of them, had the effects of the decisions that their friends made had on them, the kind of effects that the decisions that they made had on our friends. It's kind of this whole melange of kind of guilt, and I would say it's almost like an offshoot of survivor's guilt. I've talked about this a little bit before, and I know that has kind of a different connotation in our day and age. But survivor's guilt, it's essentially, you went through this very harrowing and very kind of depressive episode with some people that you were actually quite close to in kind of this weird, not necessarily traditionally friendly way, but still, you knew a part of each other, and you kind of became a part of each other. And I think no matter what you're doing, relationships touch you, even if they're not necessarily the most constructive or healthy relationships. And so, I think if you come out of that alive, and many of your other friends are now dead, you kind of feel an extreme amount of guilt, or at least a certain amount of guilt for not only their own deaths, but for the choices that you made that not necessarily might have led to their deaths. But you kind of think, well, what if I had just been a little bit of, if I had the strength to quit, and maybe had the strength to influence my friends to quit. If they had seen what I did, maybe they could do the same. Or all these questions go through your head when you experience this type of thing, and it's really sad. And my name and all of my hideous mistakes. So it's a very sad line, and it's another call to, I don't need to exist. I shouldn't exist. My existence is kind of a waste of space. And that's I've said many times. It's an increasingly pervasive worldview. And so these things like addiction, depression, and kind of general nihilistic worldviews kind of don't separate the individuals from their logic or their ability to understand what they're doing to themselves and those that they love and that love them. And that's kind of why it's a hugely important and personal song. There's a crisis of both of these types of drug addiction and suicide, where drug overdoses have become the number one cause of death between individuals ages 18 to 45, which has never been the case. And suicide level, never been a recorded case. I don't know about history. I very much doubt it. But suicide levels are the highest they've ever been. It's the 10th most common cause of death in the U.S. and the second most among individuals aged 10 to 34, which that's really sad. Age 10. The fact that age 10 is even added into the category is profoundly sad. I can't even imagine being at age 10 and having those types of thoughts and the wherewithal to imagine the world without you, or imagine that you are so worthless that you need to end your own life. And that's I think speaks even more to not only the meaninglessness that the members of these generations are experiencing, but that the effects of that meaninglessness on their children and the people who are growing up now. Nihilism and kind of overt meaninglessness are almost a part of the not a part of the zeitgeist, but it's almost fashionable. It's almost fashionable. There is no meaning. Everything is just we're all just reactive clumps of cells who exist in a reactive matter-filled universe, and everything that has ever happened is not is not connected or is not a consequence of anything else. It's just kind of this melange of unpredictable and random happenings. And while that may be true, it certainly does not seem to be the most utilitarian of modes of being. And I've kind of I've kind of felt that, you know, and it kind of seems to be driving this crisis of meaning. And I've experienced, I've 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 dabbled in the depths and dysfunctions of nihilism. I was a very nihilistic person, and the product, when I finally realized that it was that there was a product to be had from things like that, because I didn't think anything meant anything. So the 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 road of meaninglessness had no effect on me, uh, uh, essentially. You know, the product was just kind of this depressive black hole, and as is the nature of depression, it's kind of just it's a um, self-feeding sickness. You know, you get depressed, and the more depressed you get, the harder it is to pull yourself out of that. And it was kind of an existence that a future didn't exist, and it was hard to remember the past, especially the recent past, because I wasn't making a past, because I was too busy taking part in the activities that someone who is a nihilistic and meaninglessness individual might partake in, which essentially was I would categorize it as the attempt to mask the feelings of meaninglessness that I had with various activities and substances. Um, that's all I'll go into that. So I think Julien Baker is kind of tapping into this crisis in this song. She's drawing attention to it, and the first step to solving any problem is recognizing it and drawing attention to it. And the problem has been recognized, I think, by many people and many times over. And there are individuals who have postulated solutions. Julien herself, in her calls to rejoice, is kind of postulating a solution. She's you know, I rejoice. I rejoice. I think there's a God, and He hears you the way when I rejoice and complain. But she still rejoices, because life is a gift. It's a bit of a bittersweet gift. It's kind of a cursed gift. It's a Pandora's box. But it is a gift, nonetheless. And that's kind of how you have to view it if you want to find anything meaningful and sustaining within your life. I think that's what the song means. But like I said, we all interpret songs in our own way. This is just my interpretation. It's a beautiful song. I would recommend Julien Baker. She's a bit of a tearjerker, but she does well. I really enjoyed her first album in particular. But that's all I've got to say about that. That's probably pretty depressing, but I think it's important. I think it's important to draw attention to these things and try to understand the art that's coming out of our generation and our time. And it's important to understand all art and all of these kind of microcosms of meaning that artists try to create, and the problems that they try to draw attention to, because that's kind of it seems to be that the role of an artist is to philosophize and kind of look deeper into the meanings and mechanisms of how society and humanity works, and point at them and go, hey, that's there. Don't not pay attention to it, because it's actually important, and this is how it's touched me, and how I think it's important, why I think you should think it's important as well. They're kind of the pointers. And then you have your pointers and you have your figure outers. I don't think many artists actually, well, I don't want to go there. But yeah, that's that. It's Thursday. Have a good weekend soon, and a good week, and a good life. Find your meaning. To be cliche, I'm not sure that's totally a cliche, but it sounds like one, so I'm just gonna call it that and try not to say it again. Anyway, yeah. Catch you later.